Welcome, everyone. I've been thinking about the human ear recently, and several years ago, when I first discovered Earth was not a ball, I um, I made a video about the human ear and the balance system. It was pretty crude. It was my first attempt, really, at doing a video, so I thought I would do another one. The topic has been coming up quite a bit with our balance system. So I thought I would just go over this. I hope you don't mind my impromptu kind of style. I like the idea of having you join with me and looking through information together. So I'll just read some of this. This particular information is from humanmemory.net, Vestibular System. You must have wondered sometime in your life how your body maintains its balance. So there's a system in your body called the vestibular system that is responsible for maintaining the balance of the body and performing associated functions. So it is a sensory system present in the inner ear that provides sensory information to the brain required for maintenance of balance and performing coordinated movements. That's very important. In this article, they're going to go through the different aspects of the vestibular system, including its anatomy, mechanism, connections, and functions. And they also mention how to discuss how the quality of life is affected by the disease of the vestibular system. Excuse me. The anatomy of the vestibular system. So as we can see here, the vestibular system, semicircular canals and otolith organs. So you can see here, this is noted as a labyrinth. We have the semicircular canals. They're positioned at basically 90 degrees from each other in 3 axes. So you'll have these tubular ducts, the utricle, the saxule, the cochlea, ampullae. We'll go through each of these. So the system is present in the inner ear. It is present in a system of bony tubules and chambers present in the petrous part of the temporal bone, a part of the skull. This system of bony tubules is called the bony labyrinth. There we go. Sorry about that. The bony labyrinth contains a system of membranous tubules and chambers called the membranous labyrinth. This membranous labyrinth is considered to be the functional part of the vestibular system. Interesting. So this is all part of it, where it's located, what it's located in. Structure of the inner ear. Once again, the inner ear is present in the petrous part of the temporal bone. It is made of 3 parts. Cochlea concerned with the process of hearing. The vestibules concerned with the process of equilibrium sensation. Semicircular canals concerned with equilibrium and position sensation, or angularity. The vestibular system comprises of the vestibule and the semicircular canals. The vestibule consists of the utricle and saxule. These are only 2 parts of vestibular labyrinth, a membranous labyrinth present within the bony labyrinth of the vestibule. So it's located inside of a bony and membranous labyrinth. Very interesting. The utricle is continuous with the semicircular canals posteriorly. Anteriorly, it communicates with the saxiole through the utrioculosaccular duct. The endolymphatic duct rises from the utrolexacular duct. The utricle and the saxiole have a specialized areas of sensory epithelium concerned with the perception of equilibrium and position sensations. This characteristic epithelium is called macula. The macula of utricle is present on the floor of the utricle, while the macula of saxiole is present in its medial wall. Semicircular canals. These are the bony canals that open into the vestibule of the bony labyrinth. There are 3 semicircular canals: anterior, posterior, and medial semicircular canals. They open into the vestibule via 5 openings because the anterior and posterior canals have one common limb. So right here you see we also have the cupola. The cupola movement generates nerve impulses. These via hair cells, hair-like extensions, supporting cells, and nerve fiber. On with the semicircular canals, they contain semicircular ducts as part of the membranous labyrinth. Each semicircular duct has an ampulla at one end. The ampulla contains the sensory area called the ampullary crest. These ampullary crests sense the movement of the head and play a role in maintaining the balance of the body. Wow. The nerve of the vestibular system is the vestibular cochlear nerve. The vestibular part of the nerve is concerned with sensations of position and equilibrium. Blood supply. The blood supply of the vestibular system is derived mainly from the labyrinthine artery, a branch of basilar artery. Other arteries that provide blood to the vestibular system include the posterior auricular artery, middle meningeal artery, and the anterior tympanic branch of maxillary artery. Physiology of the vestibular system. So it says we need, in order to understand the physiology, we need to understand the structure of the macula and ampulla in detail. The structure of the macula is sensory organ slightly greater than 2 millimeters in size present inside the utricle and saxiole. It has special features that help it detect then change in position and equilibrium. So it detects change in position and equilibrium. And once again, this sensory organ is present inside the utricle and saxiole. See that? Macula has thousands of hair cells present in it. Each macula is also covered by a gelatinous layer that contains many small calcium carbonate crystals. These calcium carbonate crystals are called statoconia. They are embedded in the gelatinous layer. The cilia of hairs project into this gelatinous layer. Wow. Now, I may come into contention with anything that's talking about gravity. NASA themselves say that this system is not affected by gravity because Earth is flat and stationary. Anyway, the bases and sides of the hair cells make synapses with vestibular nerve. The specific gravity of the statoconia is 2 to 3 times greater than the surrounding fluid, so it's heavier. I don't know why they use so the specific gravity, that's to separate that out as meaning specific to itself and other surrounding fluids. So these statoconia cause the bending of the cilia in the direction of the pull. Now they say mainly the gravitational pull. That is not correct. Gravity is a theory. There is a direction of down. We know this. So let's stick with the facts. Excitation of the hair cells. Each hair cell in the macula has 50 to 70 small cilia called the stereocilia. A large cilium is also present called the kinocilium. The kinocilium is always present on one side of the hair cell. So this is a very complex system, people. You have the hair cell, you have these nerves going to hair cell like things, the stereocilia, they're tethered to the tectorial membrane inside of this. They're little sensors. The stereocilia continuous becomes shorter in length as one moves to the other side of the hair cell. Seems like simple geometry. There's a minute filamentous attachments that connect to each stereocilium to next longer stereocilium and ultimately to the kinocilium. Where the kinocilium and the stereocilia bend in the direction of kinocilium, the filamentous attachments pull the stereocilia in a direction outward from the cell body. A large number of fluid channels are present at the base of stereocilia. This movement causes the opening of these fluid channels that carry a number of positive ions inside the hair cell. This causes resting membrane depolarization of the hair cell. On the other hand, the movement of the stereocilia in a direction opposite to the kinocilium causes a closing of these channels. As a result, hyperpolarization occurs. Under normal conditions, the nerve fibers from the hair cells conduct impulses at a rate of 100 per second. Bending of cilia towards the kinocilium increases the rate of impulses, whereas the bending of cilia away from the kinocilium decreases the impulse conduction in the vestibular nerve. Wow. Structure and excitation of ampulla. Ampulla are sensory organs present in the semicircular ducts. Each semicircular duct has one ampulla at one end. Endolymph present in the semicircular as well as the ampulla. That's the fluid and the endolymph. Each ampulla has an ampullary crest called crista ampullaris. Crista ampullaris has a number of hair cells in its structure. The same cells are present in the macula of the vestibule. Did you ever think you could learn so much about the ear? This is showing head acceleration, obviously angularity of the head, of the entire structure. And we'll moving right along. There apparently is a loose gelatinous layer is present on top of each crista called the copula, which is different than the cupola. Thousands of cilia and kinocilia project from the hair cells in the crista ampullaris into the copula. So all the kinocilia in the copula are arranged in the same direction. When the head turns, the endolymph in the cochlear ducts is displaced. This displacement of endolymph causes a bending of kinocilia. The bending of the copula in one direction causes depolarization of hair cells, whereas bending the opposite direction causes hyperpolarization. Transmission of sensory information to the brain. The nerve impulses arising in the vestibular system are carried by the vestibular nerve to the brain. Let's just take a look at this real quick here. See how it's attached, the semicircular canals, the vestibular nerve, Scarpa's ganglion, vestibular nucleus, the abducens nucleus, abducens nerve going to the eyes. So it needs to match up with our eyes. That's how we are able to position ourselves with our balance and our eyesight. The first order neurons are the vestibular nuclei present in the vestibular system of the inner ear. These vestibular ganglia synapse with the hair cells present in the macula and ampulla. The efferent fibers from the vestibular ganglia terminate at the vestibular nuclei. The second order neurons are the vestibular nuclei. They receive afferent fibers from the vestibular ganglia in the form of the vestibular nerve as well as from the cerebellum. The efferent fibers from the vestibular nuclei have the following states. Okay. Fibers from the lateral vestibule nuclei travel in the spinal cord as the vestibulospinal tract. Some fibers form the medial longitudinal fasciculus, giving fibers to oculomotor, trochlear, and abducent nerves. Some fibers ascend upwards into the vestibular area of the cerebral cortex after relaying in the ventral posterior nuclei of the thalamus. Here are some of the functions performed by the vestibular system. Maintenance of static equilibrium. I knew these little items were important. The utricle and saxule are responsible for the maintenance of static equilibrium. The hair cells in the macula of the utricle and saxule are oriented in different directions. The specific pattern of stimulation of these hair cells keep the brain informed about the position of the head. Thank you very much. So as you can see, we have the cochlea, once again, the saxule, the vestibule, the utricle, the horizontal canal, posterior canal, and superior canal. Depending on this information, the vestibular, reticular, and cortical systems of the brain send excitatory signals to the appropriate muscles so that the posture is maintained. Prediction of disequilibrium. When the head suddenly begins to rotate, the endolymph in the semicircular ducts is displaced. This causes hyperpolarization or depolarization of the hair cells of crista ampullaris. I don't see there's any way around that, folks. No. These ducts send signals to the higher centers only when the head begins to rotate or stops rotation, as the copula and the hair cells rapidly adapt to new position of the semicircular canals. This is because the endolymph becomes static. Thus, these ducts play a predictive role in the maintenance of the equilibrium. The semicircular ducts predict that disequilibrium is going to occur and cause the equilibrium centers to make appropriate preventative adjustments. These adjustments help the person maintain balance before the situation can be corrected. You could never maintain balance if there was in a pressureless area. You could never maintain balance. Movement of the eyes. The vestibular system is also responsible for the reflex movement of the eyes. It causes the eyes to rotate in the direction of movement of the head. This function is performed via the medial longitudinal facilis. Conclusion and summary. The vestibular system is a sensory system that is responsible for the maintenance of the body's position and equilibrium. It is present in the inner ear within the bony labyrinth. It consists of two parts, the vestibule, which is comprised of the utricle and the saxule, and the three semicircular canals. The sensory organ in the utricle and saxule is the macula, which detects any change in the linear position of the head. The semicircular canals have ampulla at one end of each semicircular duct. This ampulla detects the rotary movement of the head. The signals arise from the vestibular system are carried by the vestibular nerve to the brain and other centers. The function performed by the vestibular system include maintenance of static equilibrium, prediction of disequilibrium, controlling the movement of the eyes. So there you go. I'll just leave it at that. You can do your own studies, compare notes, tell me what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching my channel. Appreciate the support. Click subscribe and feel free to share this video. Have a great day. Bye now.